I got an interesting comment on my last video from someone called the Fifth Musketeer, which I want to read out here. I'm a retired police officer. Not every police officer is as bad as you tar them, but as a public service that is there to serve the needs of the public, not to be the lackey of our clueless, liberal, progressive government, they are being destroyed by an ingrained culture of political correctness that runs right the way through the police recruitment and promotion system. That propagandist PC culture has resulted in the police only recruiting and promoting vacuous, liberal mantra spouting, mindless zombie clones who waste precious time, money and resources upholding the bogus, spurious rights of one snowflake complainant after another. Meanwhile, the core crime fighting responsibility that justifies the very existence and funding of the police gets neglected or under-resourced, and genuine victims of crime are palmed off with hollow and unconvincing excuses as to why the police can't or won't do anything about those crimes. I'm truly ashamed of what the police in the UK have become in recent decades. Far from upholding genuine human rights and sacrosanct liberties that our forebears fought to preserve, today's police have become the enemies of free speech and are antagonistic towards the essential right to criticise so much that is wrong with our so-called free society. I think that's a commendable remark, but I have little sympathy for the police, because they willingly allow themselves to be the blunt instruments of the state and enforce these ever-increasing petty behaviour laws against ordinary people with relish. In the past, you joined the police because you wanted to tackle crime. Now you join up so you can help those in authority manipulate the public at will. For a long time, I've wondered just what's changed about police recruitment. And how is it that so many petty-minded and vindictive little dictators are being initiated into the service without any proper checks as to just how intolerant or self-motivated they really are? And it's simple. The police don't conduct any psychological checks on their new recruits. Instead, each force has its own political agenda, and as long as applicants reflect back those politics, they have a good chance of getting in. If you aren't malleable, suggestible, and willing to act upon any order, no matter how unlawful, oppressive, or destructive it may be, then there's no place for you in the police service. The police don't solve crime anymore, and they sure as hell aren't interested in public service. This is why one of the biggest insults you can give to the police is to call them a public servant. They don't represent the public, they represent the ruling class, namely the progressive ideology of that ruling class. So I took a look at just what priorities are when it comes to modern policing, and I came across this document on the College of Policing website, which sets out its main aims for recruitment, and that is to induct as many minority groups into the force as possible. Right at the top of that list are those members of the transgender community. Yep, like the police don't have enough mentally ill in their ranks, they need to recruit some more. The reasoning behind all this affirmative action blather is that diversity helps for better community relations. Community, if you don't know, is police speak for minority groups that are afforded special treatment by virtue of their skin colour or beliefs. But what these 60-year-old sociology students that pass themselves off as chief constables don't seem to understand is that there are plenty of Muslim, women, blacks and gays that hate them also. And it has nothing to do with the fact that they want to see themselves reflected back at themselves in a nice authoritarian shade of blue with a tit on their head. But this is how condescending the top brass are. They honestly think that if they dress minorities in police uniform, other minorities will be grateful for it. What is interesting though is how the same ideology that never ceases to drum into us how diversity is our strength at the same time seeks to segregate us into isolated user groups that are each entitled to kid-glove treatment. Of course, there is no such thing as the white community or the heterosexual community in police parlance. Not unless, of course, they're referring to the enemy. The police are utterly obsessed with identity politics and progressive ideology, and everything they say and do is dragged through its mangle. They would rather allow children to be raped than to give the impression that they are racist. This is why your ethnicity is the first thing that's asked for right after they've unlawfully searched you. Our once useful police service has become nothing more than the paramilitary wing of progressive thinking that seeks to serve only those who hold the accepted ideology and believe that more government, more policing and more criminalisation is the answer to everything. Unless individual officers are willing to roll back the tide and refuse to hound and investigate those who have committed thought crimes, then they can expect more and more of the public to turn against them. But we all know that isn't going to happen. The police enjoy the brutal, authoritarian aspects of their job, and that's why they go after the public with such zeal. In their previous lives, they were nobodies who everybody stood up to. Now they see themselves as important. Big heroes who everybody fears and admires. The police aren't going to let your need to assert your civil rights overcome their overwhelming desire to dominate and their unfaltering obedience to whatever the government tells them to do. Forget community groups. The police officer is the most dangerous and protected group of any other in this country. Unaccountable, above the law, militarised, politically motivated, and above all, obsessed with criminalising as much of the public as they possibly can, with accusations, investigation, and prosecution for offences that are designed to prevent you from opposing them or holding the wrong set of beliefs. And let's not forget the apologists and police enablers you often find lurking in the comments of these videos, excusing every malicious arrest and brutality as deserved for not showing the police the respect they're automatically entitled to, often voicing that hackneyed protest of, why don't you just let the police do their job? Because they're not doing their jobs, are they? Their job isn't to regulate our behaviours and control our opinions, or to bully us on the street into complying with an officer's improvisation of the law. If anyone should be doing their job, it's you, the complainer, as it's your duty to uphold your rights even in the face of overwhelming oppression. If you're willing to surrender your dignity and your freedoms whenever it's wrongfully demanded, just to make it easier on yourself, then don't be surprised when there comes a day when surrendering those freedoms ultimately makes it much harder on you than you ever imagined. If you wish to support this channel, then please consider purchasing one of the e-products I sell from my website, or maybe making a donation.